If you're a business owner with an overdue tax debt or you're having troubles paying a tax bill, then this video is a must watch for you. It could save you tens of thousands of dollars and help you avoid a heap of headaches.
I'm here with Olga Koski from Tax Assure. Now, Olga, can you tell me a few things about what you're seeing with the ATO at the moment?
Yeah, so there's a few things going on behind the scenes that I think there's a lot of businesses and a lot of people that are in a lulled, false sense of security. So last year we saw the tax office in a way go quite easy on people, especially because of COVID. And this year there was a lot of rumbling sort of around June, July about them enforcing compliance again and recovering all of the outstanding debt. So the rough figures that are thrown about at the moment is there's 53 billion in outstanding tax debt owed to the tax office at the moment. So even if they're not knocking on your door, so to speak, or you're not getting the warning letters at the moment, if you're behind in your tax, you're still considered to be in a position of non-compliance, and they're still recording that completely on their system. Everyone doesn't automatically get a free kick because of COVID, which is sort of a scary thing because people are in that sort of false sense of security that they're not realising that they do, if they've got outstanding debt, that they're considered non-compliant. The other thing that we're seeing at the moment, there was a lot of press around this about 2 weeks ago, is that some new laws came in April that if you've got over $100,000 owing to the ATO, they can now report you to a credit reporting agency. And we're seeing warning letters coming out, and we're seeing them actively enforcing that legislation now, which can impact a business and individuals in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's scary. I wanted to ask that. I'm glad you mentioned it because I did see that come up with the $100,000 plus tax debt. And I'd imagine anyone who does get hit with that on their credit file, that brings everything to a standstill, including the ability to borrow money.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't know that this has come in, and often don't know that it's happened until after the fact and after it's happened, and that it's too late, especially with people sort of deferring payments of their tax liabilities last year. It adds up very, very quickly to get to that 100,000. There are a couple of things you can do, which is really good news. And one of them is what's called engagement. If you do engage and proactively respond to these letters from the ATO and engage with the ATO as to what's been happening and why, or using people like us, then that's one way to stop that credit reporting happening.
Okay, well, that's probably a good segue, actually, because your company, Tax Assure, you've been around for quite some time. Now, what can you explain to us, what's the difference between your company and, say, going to your accountant?
Yeah, absolutely. So the owners of Tax Assure, we're all lawyers, even though Tax Assure isn't a law firm, and we all come from a legal background. We don't help with compliance at your general sort of filing your tax return, filing your BASs. We just help people with tax debt. So we help both get you back into that position of compliance, like I was talking about, moving forward, helping getting people payment plans that they can afford, and helping reduce their overall debt when looking at interest and penalties. And that's all we do. So we have good relationships, very sort of specialty experience. And a lot of our applications look and deal with what's going on. The ATO have things called legal practice statements and requirements of things that they're allowed to take into consideration. And that's the basis of most of our applications.
So it'd be a pretty reassuring service, I think, if you're a business owner and you've got trouble with the ATO.
Yeah, so the amount of times we hear people, they come in and they're so stressed. And this is really difficult times for people during COVID. There's so many different pressures, and it sits on your shoulders, weighs on you if you have this debt and you don't really know where to start. And to have someone take that away from you. And the ATO can be, in some ways, a bit scary for people as well, whereas we're a bit like a shield. We can do all that work for you. We come in between you and the ATO, take that worry away, take that stress away, look after it for you so you can get on with running your business.
Yeah, that'd be a huge relief for a lot of business owners. So, Olga, can you tell me a few tips for businesses, and especially businesses, well, firstly, when dealing with the ATO, but businesses with a current tax debt or just difficulty coming up, difficulty with a tax bill coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing lots and lots of businesses that have so-called kicked the can down the road. It was a bit of a saying that we saw a lot last year, and were able to defer their liabilities, but then they add up really quickly. And often too, because of that stress, we just see people put their head in the sand. But the biggest thing is I would like to tell people is you're not alone in that. There are so many people in that position, and there are a lot of things to do other than just ignoring the debt and not just having to pay it in full. So the most important thing at the moment is what we call engagement. So that would be us corresponding with the ATO and telling them what's going on and how you're COVID affected. What's going to happen, I believe, next year is the ATO, or even later this year, depending on sort of how numbers go, is the ATO will begin enforcing and begin collecting that debt. And they actually said in March this year that they were back in an active collection phase. So we saw that actually happening up until these large outbreaks in Sydney and Melbourne's recent lockdown. And when they start collecting, you might then say, oh, but I was COVID affected. The biggest problem is going to be the ATO saying, well, you didn't tell us at the time. You didn't tell us how you were affected. You didn't tell us what was going on. So that engagement is specifically what the ATO are asking for now. And to not be afraid that you have to pay it all in full once that engagement process has happened. There's a whole heap of different solutions. And one of them is like you guys providing funding. And another is payment plans, but payment plans people can afford. So not something that's going to stress them out even more, not something that their cash flow doesn't support. And there's also a service that we provide where we have a look at interest and penalties that have built up on an account. So even if you're one day late in paying your tax, you will have incurred interest and penalties. And depending on your situation, there's an application that can be done to get rid of that, which then also can lower the overall debt.
Okay, so there's a lot of upside for businesses that are in that situation to make contact with you. And I'm assuming make contact with you ASAP,
Yeah.
not put the head in the sand.
Well, it's not going away. So unless there's an active insolvency, a debt is always going to stay with the company. And the other really scary fact is that there's a whole heap of circumstances where your GST liability and your super liability and your PAYG liability can attach to a director personally. And so I think that's going to come up a lot as well. And absolutely, if you deal with it now, it is going to be so much easier than waiting to get these legal letters from the ATO, getting garnishee notices, getting things called director penalty notices further down the track.
And to get in touch with your company, it's simply just a case, fill in a quick submission form and your team get straight back onto the business owner and have an initial discussion, I imagine. Is that the general process?
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't charge for that initial discussion. And look, I am a passionate supporter. I own my own business. I'm a passionate supporter of people that do own their own business. And I know how tough it is at the moment. And so even if that discussion can take some of the stress away, and I often say it helps people sleep at night, then we're absolutely here to help. And the things I hear all the time, I wish I knew about you 12 months ago. I wish I knew about you 6 months ago. Why didn't I do something earlier? So yeah, absolutely now is the best time to try and get this into and get you back in a position of compliance. So it's one less thing you have to worry about.
No, look, sounds like great advice. And I think for mortgage brokers or accountants watching, or if you're a business owner watching, just don't delay, get on to Tax Assured straight away and just have that initial conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Olga, thanks so much for your time today. It's been great to learn some of those scary
That is a bit.
things we should know about as business owners. And I hope this interview today saves a lot of people a lot of heartache and a lot of money in penalties. Thanks for your time, Olga.
Thanks for having me today.